Great to meet all of you, and hopefully everybody's keeping well. It's a great venue at Techsparks to talk about entrepreneurship and how at Lenovo we have driven the business very aggressively. And specifically, I want to talk about how the online business in the last 15 years has grown 15x. Our profits have grown about 20x. Now, everything that I talk about today is probably not going to fit into the things that you want to do. When I think about a business and I think about scaling the business, you always think about scalable ideas that transcend borders, ideas that transcend countries and actually can scale. So you have to think about a concept that scales. Number two, start building a team for the future. Do not try to scrap things that are on the deck, but really think about the future and build a team that can actually take you to where you need to go, at least in the medium to long-term range. So it shouldn't be 6 months, but it should also probably not be 10 years, but think about something that's 3 to 5 years. Always think about how you can take a product and have the value proposition resonate with your audience in a deep way. If you're trying to follow a product, if you're trying to follow an idea or a service, think about how you're going to introduce something that is slightly better, that can be easily differentiated with your audience. You know, I always say to my team that perfection is overrated. Don't try to get things perfect. Time to value and time to market is more important than anything else. Therefore, while perfection is an aspirational goal for everybody, it also kills time. It also makes it difficult for you to get things to market on time. So therefore, always have the idea of a MVP, which is you get a product to a stage where it can actually function. And then use the feedback as you introduce the product to basically make it better. Iterate around the product rather than trying to make it perfect on the first go. Test everything. So the mantra these days, with data being so ubiquitous with everything that we do, you should always have a framework to test, and test again. When you really think about expansion into countries, expansion into broader markets, always think about how you can find commonality in what you already have. Meaning, if you launched a product in an English-speaking country, chances are that there are other adjacencies, other markets that are also English-speaking. And therefore, without doing a lot of work, you can try to get into markets that are English-speaking. And this is just one example. Maybe it's currency, maybe it's language, maybe it's culture. But always try to find commonality as you're trying to expand. It's much more easier. You don't have to second guess customer behavior. You don't have to really worry about the nuances that could derail you as you're trying to make progress. As you're thinking about value proposition, I think it is really, really important to not fall in love with your product, but rather fall in love with your customer. Always think about what your customer needs. Not sufficient to really think about what your customer needs. You have to really, really anticipate what the customer pain points could be as they go through the customer journey. So it is really, really imperative that you think about the end-to-end journey as a customer progresses through whatever brand you are trying to build, because most of the time, the weakest link will derail you. So think about the customer always from an end-to-end standpoint. And look, at the end of the day, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Making mistakes becomes just the cornerstone of how you build the business. So have the resilience to basically learn from mistakes. The team should always get oriented towards what we call at Lenovo a FUPON mentality, which is really looking at the business, learning from it at every step of the way. And sometimes you learn by making mistakes. Sometimes you have great wins, but even in wins, you can learn something. So the mentality of FUPON is something that I leave you with, because I think it always tries to improve what you're trying to do. Look, at the very end, I would like to leave you with one thought. As you're going through this process, you're going to go through some pretty hard decisions. You're going to go through some hard environmental events that's going to potentially make you feel like you're not going to make it. But at the end of the day, I think the journey has to be the interesting part of this whole exercise. So therefore, be humble, have fun, help others. Thank you very much.